Hey, again, good morning. George Dunnigan with Interlux. We're going to talk but not apply any sick and Cetol to this rail at the present time, but this is a good example of a weathered teak rail because of its gray color. There's some rails like this that have a lot of ups and downs in them as the softer grain leaves the areas between the harder grain. So to prep this and get it up to Bristol condition, you would what they would call wood the teak. You would sand it back to its golden natural color. Okay, some 80 grit sandpaper will do that just fine. And because it's a cold day, we're not really able to apply anything, but we can certainly talk about the prep. Sand the teak golden color. On old teak like this, you may see some black spots later on after you get all the grayness out of it. You can bleach the teak. You can use a teak cleaner. There's all kinds of commercial products out there that will take any of the mold or mildew or contaminants that are in the teak out. So once you've done sanding the teak, it goes to a golden color, and once that's dry, after any chemicals or bleach or whatever you put on there are gone or dry, then the prep procedure would begin, and it's very simple. With the sick and Cetol, the product is called Natural Teak. It's the newest and latest version. It's got the best ultraviolet protection package that we've come up with. You would simply take a good China bristle brush, if you choose to. They're very expensive, and lay on a coat. On a boat of this size, you could work the whole rail, come around, go up with one coat. When you get back to your starting point, put a second coat on. You would put as many coats on till the wood saturates and won't take anymore. It will actually puddle. And once that's done, the wood's saturated, and then you would wipe that puddle off with a clean terry cloth towel and walk away. That will give you a nice semi-gloss golden color with a great ultraviolet package. The next step, if you choose, would be to put a gloss coating over top, which would be the Sickens gloss, and wait 24 hours and then apply at least 2 to 3 coats of that, and then you've got a very tough, what we call bulletproof finish that's on there. And a little more to come as we put some teak on, and we'll talk about yearly maintenance as we get a little further along in this project. Cut.
All right, this is going to be the stand-up for the talking paint can, in which we basically say, here's how the various finishes want to be treated. And if you want them to look right at the end, how you prepare and how you put them on is going to make a big difference. And now our talking paint can. Go ahead, George.
Good morning. The topic is the most common mistakes when applying paint products or finishes to boats or vessels. And I have to use the boat shows as my example. People come through the Annapolis Boat Show, Power and Sail, and typical questions are, how do I paint my decks? How do I paint my cabin top? How do I paint my bottom? And you go through these procedures with them step by step, and inevitably they come back and say, why can't I just scuff and paint it? Why do I need to prime it? Why do I need to strip it? So what happens is people tend to cut corners. So being a manufacturer's rep, when we see these things, and we know that 99% of the failures are applicator error or preparation. A lot of people try and blame it on the paint can, and we always come back and say, we don't make 1 gallon of bad paint. It's usually the applicator. So we have to become very diplomatic on how we say, you messed up. And then we go back through, here is the proper procedure, here is how it's done step by step. If you cut the corner here, this is what will happen. So most people try to avoid the extra priming or the priming that needs to go down with top coat finish. Everybody tries to avoid sanding the bottom of the boats because it's so labor intensive and it's dirty. On decks and handrails and things like that, it's the inevitable time-consuming sanding that has to go on. But 99% of a good job is prep. 1% of it is actually the application of the product. So it's very simple to get it right. It's very time consuming to get it perfect.
Talk to me about the weather.
Weather's important. If you look on the technical data sheets, every single one will say apply only above this temperature and not any further than this. So you've got a minimum temperature and a maximum temperature where you can apply paint. If you're dealing with water-based products, humidity comes into play. If you're dealing with epoxy products, temperature has a key role in how fast they cure. So temperature is very important, humidity is very important. So the rule is follow what the data sheet says. They write these things for a purpose because these products work within these temperature ranges.
Okay.
And especially overcoat windows. If you overcoat things too quickly, then you can seal solvents in so they can't get out, and the film surface stays soft or spongy. The solvents are trapped. If that happens, you've got a mess on your hands, and in that you have to scrape it off and start over. There's a whole host of issues and problems that come up, and I can always tell when somebody's cut a corner and he calls me and says, well, I did it this way, and he starts reading the technical data sheet to me, word for word. So I know he's trying to cover his tracks, but when I get down there and see what he has done, I can usually tell. So then I have to be very diplomatic and say, yes, you do have a little bit of a problem, but we'll get through this.